Alright, this video is going to cover notes T.9.D, which is the law of cosines. So if we look at this example, alright, we are given that angle A is 60 degrees, side B is 20, and side C is 30. Alright, the problem with this setup is that we cannot use the law of sines because no matter which angle or side I tried to use, I would always have two missing pieces. If I had sine 60 over A, I would still have sine of B over 20. I have two different variables that I would have to solve for. So we can't use the law of sines. So what we need is a new law, and that is the law of cosines. Alright, here's what it looks like. There are three different forms, alright, depending on which angle is over here. So whatever angle is over here, cosine of angle A, means side A is on the left side of the equal sign. B, B, C, C. So they always match up. Alright, and which version of the law you're going to use depends on what information you're given and what you're trying to solve for. So here is an example. Angle A is 35 degrees, side B is 20, and side C is 30. So we are going to solve for the missing side A. Alright, since A is the side that I'm solving for, I'm going to use the form of the law of cosines that has angle or side A on the left side and has the cosine of angle A because that is the angle that I know. So I'm going to substitute in my given information. Alright, and then we're just going to solve. I'm going to do the squaring and multiplying part first. So 20 squared plus 30 squared would be 1300. 2 times 20 times 30 is 1200. Alright, and then I'm going to go from here. I'm going to put this in my calculator. Alright, once I have this all set up, my calculator will follow order of operations. If you type it in separate pieces, make sure that you multiply first before you do the subtraction. This is not the same thing as 100 times cosine 35. These are not like terms. They cannot be combined. Okay, so got it all set up. My calculator gives me 317 point, and then there's a bunch of decimals. Remember, that is a squared, so we're not going to round until we get a final answer. So if this is a squared, then I need the square root of that number. So I'm going to use that answer key, shift answer, so that I don't have to type that in or round it. Alright, and I get 17.8. So that means that side A has a length of 17.8. From here, now I have angle A and side A. Once you have that matching pair, then you can use the law of sines. Very important, however, is that you need to first find the angle across from the smaller remaining side. It has to do with, like we talked about, the ambiguous case and getting the right angle. So I'm going to first find angle B. So I would have the sine of 35 over 17.8, and that's equal to the sine of angle B over 20. Alright, and then just like we did before with law of sines, I'm going to cross multiply, solve. Because I'm looking for angle B, I'm going to need to do the inverse sine. And when I do that, I'm going to get that angle B is 40.1. Alright, if angle B is 40.1, then angle C is going to be 180 minus 35 minus 40.1. Alright, so I don't need to do law of sines again. I can just use the fact that all three angles add up to 180, and I get 104.9 for angle C. Alright, second example where we need law of cosines, where we are given three sides and no angle. So again, I have no angles, so I can't use law of sines because I would have two missing pieces of information. So what we're going to do is we are going to find the angle across from the largest side first. So that means that I am going to use the form of the law of cosines with b squared on the left side because I want the cosine of angle B. That's the missing piece that I'm trying to find. Alright, substitute my given information. And then I'm going to solve this, and again I'm going to do the squaring and multiplying first. So this is 81, 6 squared plus 4 squared is 52, 2 times 6 times 4 is 48. Alright, and again, these are not like terms, they cannot be combined. This is not equal to 4 cosine B, you can't just do the subtraction. Alright, I need to actually solve for cosine of b, so I'm going to subtract 52 from both sides. Alright, and then the last step would be to divide by negative 48. When I do 29 divided by negative 48, that number is the cosine of b, so then I have to do the inverse cosine to get the measure of angle. Okay, so there's 29 divided by negative 48, and then I'm going to do inverse cosine of the answer, and angle B is going to be 127.2. Alright, from there, now I have a matching pair, so I'm going to use the law of sines to find one of the missing angles. And I'm going to choose to use, to find angle C, so it's going to be the sine of 127.2 over 9 equal to the sine of angle C over 4. Cross multiply, divide, do my inverse, and I get that angle C is 20.7. So if angle C is 20.7, then 180 minus 127.2 minus 20.7 would leave me with 32.1 for angle A. Alright, so here's kind of a summary of using law of cosines. So side angle side, we're going to use law of cosines, and then law of sines always for the shorter side. That's what you have to remember. And then side, 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 we're going to find the longest side first. Last thing we have is something called Heron's formula to find the area of a triangle. Alright, remember, you probably know area equals 1/2 base times height, but we don't have a right triangle, so instead of trying to find the height and which one is the base, we're just going to use this formula. You're going to find something called S, where it is the sum of the three sides divided by 2, and then you're going to take the square root of S times S minus each side. Okay, so if we look at an example, and just to make it a little bit easier, I'm actually going to change this to 5. Alright, so find the area. The first thing I'm going to do is find S. So it's going to be the sum of the three sides divided by 2. 6 plus 9 plus 5 would be 20 divided by 2 would be 10. So S is equal to 10. So the area then would be the square root of 10 and then 10 minus each side. So 10 minus 6, 10 minus 9, and 10 minus 5. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and multiply all of that, or do the subtraction, I'm sorry, inside the parentheses first. So I would have 10 times 4 times 1 times 5. Alright, and when I multiply all of that and take the square root, I get that the area is 14.1. Alright, and because it's area, I need some units, and I'm not given units, so I'm just going to say units squared. So area is units squared. If you're given the lengths of the sides in feet, it would be feet squared, meter squared, something like that. Don't forget units when you're finding area.